Yeah, so Jeff, we wanted to interview you because, we met you actually a few years ago, a couple of times, and we talked a little business then. And, we decided not to kind of do whatever we were talking about, but then, full circle, a couple of years later, we bump into each other again at a networking event, business event. And we don't know a lot about what you do, but I know they call you the Moneyman. And I know whatever you're doing is, you're very successful, and, we want to learn more about what it is you do so we can, keep growing and scaling and get to where you are. And there's probably a lot of other people out there who need to know what you know and the information that you have to share.
Okay.
So maybe you can give us a little idea about what you're doing now currently, and then go back into how you first started, how you grew up, like, how you got to where you are now, and, what made you successful.
Okay, great. So what I do now is I'm a small business consultant, and what I specialize in is finance. So a lot of things that have to do with money, it's what I work with. I do it a couple of different ways. First and foremost, right now, my current business model, I help small business owners build business credit. So when they build business credit, the business is able to obtain financing or funding of various sorts through their entity, dependent upon the EIN of the company, and potentially without a personal guarantee. And that sometimes, the business owner is going to have to provide a personal guarantee. So the other thing that I do is I do commercial mortgage lending. And so through my company, I'm able to help small business owners, real estate developers like yourself, for example. I'm able to help you obtain lines of credit without a personal guarantee. Or, my restaurant guys, they're looking to buy a couple of buildings right now and do a couple of different things with those buildings, put new business models into those buildings. And so I'm helping them finance the purchase of that building. And then their tenants, I help them with the financing of their business so that they don't suffer too much, say, from cash flow or from having to put out a large amount of money to get started. So I work with startup companies and I work with seasoned companies, people that are really serious about getting into business. Then I do a whole wide variety of things on top of that.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah, so when we talk to people about, getting started in real estate and business, usually the biggest hurdle that they see for themselves is the money, right? Acquiring the money,
sure,
having the funds to do it. And that cripples a lot of people from pursuing what they want to do. But in your experience and from what we've seen,
yes,
the money is not the hard part. Like, how easy is it, to acquire funding for ventures, in your opinion?
Oh, from my perspective, acquiring funding for ventures is relatively easy. And it's easy because in the system that I have, which is very niche, which not even your banker down the street. I have Fifth Third at the corner. I've got Chase Bank. I've got PNC Bank. I've got all these banks that are in the neighborhood. I can share with you exactly what I do. And you can go run to your personal banker over there and tell them what I said. And they'll be like, what that guy said doesn't make any sense. And regardless of that, I can tell you that I work with anyone that's in business, that has started a business. They don't have to have good credit. They could have bad credit. I really don't care about their personal credit. What I care about is establishing their business credit so that they can carry on and move forward from there.
So do you want to go a little bit more into that? So say, I have horrible credit, but I'm starting a business and I have no money and I want to raise business credit. How do you go into that? Like, what do I have to do? Like, I feel like people out there are like, oh yeah, that doesn't make any sense. How am I going to do that? I have horrible credit, but I'm going to get, hundreds of thousands of dollars in, business credit.
Sure. Well, it's absolutely possible. The first thing you have to do is you have to establish business credit. It's a very niche process. You really have to follow everything I tell you to do. Or if you're fortunate enough to find another individual who does what I do, you better listen to them very closely. But of course, not all business credit specialists are created equal, right? So I do a bunch of other things on top of business credit. I really handhold all of my potential clients and my actual clients and get them to a place where they can breathe and live and stand on their own. So building business credit, because it's dependent upon your EIN, your employee identification number, you have to follow certain steps. And the first step is you have to create trade lines. You have to create trade lines that have a term of net 30. I don't know if you're familiar with that term of net 30, but net 30 typically means you have an account. You buy stuff today, but you pay for it later within 30 days, hence net 30. So once you have a number of accounts that are net 30 that actually report to the 3 business credit bureaus, then you can go on to the next step. But there are 3 different business credit bureaus that are very different from consumer credit. Consumer credit, you have Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, right?
Right.
In business credit, you have 3 business credit bureaus, and those are Experian, Equifax, and then lastly, Dun & Bradstreet. So aside from developing these trade lines, you need to get a Dun & Bradstreet number, and then from there we can build. Once you have those trade lines established, we go on to the next step of acquiring store credit, maybe Quill, maybe Office Depot, Home Depot, and et cetera. Maybe even a gas card, say with Speedway or something like that. And then once you have those established, you go on to the next step. And then the next step is unsecured Visa, MasterCard, perhaps in some cases American Express and Discover, although Discover is kind of waning out of this arena. But it's absolutely possible. You just have to know how to build, get to the building blocks and make things happen so that you can be in a good position. So the trick commonly is, have you ever had business credit? Have you worked with any vendors that report to the 3 business credit bureaus? And if you have, is your business credit report blemished? Because then it's a whole nother thing to go through a business credit repair. It's very difficult, and it's something that business owners don't have the same rights as consumers. So it's a whole nother arena that you really have to understand and know how to maneuver to make things right.
And this could be for a new company, right? So I say I could go on, online, Illinois, CyberDriveIllinois.com or whatever it is, register a company, get an EIN. And how long does this process usually take?
If the entrepreneur does things the right way, it can happen in anywhere from 60, 90 to 120 days, 3 months.
And what type of credit can I get in that amount of time if I do everything you said to do?
In my particular situation with the people that I work with, I guarantee $50,000 minimum within 12 months.
It's not bad at all.
Nope.
And then how can that grow or scale? Because that can get larger after that, right?
Absolutely. So after the first 12 months, when I accomplished the goal of getting my clients $50,000 in unsecured business credit, then the program actually goes out for 5 more years. So it's like a 6-year program. And as a result of that, I can help them get into our various loan programs, get into various financing opportunities. Can go anywhere to up to $250,000 and to whatever dollar amount. Just kind of depends on what we're looking at and the lenders that we have available at the time.
And also this is not tied to personal credit at all, right? It's business. What happens if you default on these? Does it come back to you, or your personal guaranteeing these types of loans or credit?
Great question. So initially, if you do it without a personal guarantee, it will never come back on you, onto your social security number or into your consumer credit report. So unless you start with a personal guarantee because you want to accelerate the process of getting business credit, it could go back onto your personal credit report or your consumer credit report if you start out with a personal guarantee. So in essence, there's 2 ways. You can do it without a personal guarantee, or you can do it with.
How much does it accelerate the process if you do a personal guarantee?
It's kind of very interesting. In some instances, depending on who the client is and where they're at and where they stand, let's say they have a credit card of, say, $10,000 personally. Their credit's really good. They meet the criteria of the underwriter. We can go 10 times that highest credit card amount. So 10 times 10,000 is how much?
100,000.
So 100,000.
You talking about the credit limit amount or the
credit
balance?
limit amount?
The limit, all right.
Okay. And very typically, depending upon how things start, we're able to obtain lines of credit with a 0% interest rate anywhere from the first 12 to 24 months, depending on the line of credit.
So would you recommend, if you have good credit, use a personal guarantee to accelerate that at the beginning? If you have horrible credit, you probably don't want to do that. Is that kind of the thought, or?
No, not necessarily. I think it goes on a case-by-case basis. It really depends upon what the client's goals and objectives are. And it really depends upon what their risk tolerance is relative to acquiring these lines of credit. So I go through all of that, and, we go through corporate structure, things like that, what type of entity you should file. I think all my entrepreneurs should file an entity. They shouldn't work with a Schedule C or a sole proprietorship. Not very good, in my opinion. And there's a lot of other financial experts and attorneys that would agree with me as well.
All right, now, to turn it back a little bit, what did you do before this?
Actually, really quick, let me get into a couple more things.
Go ahead.
That I think you should address. Because I know other people kind of went down this route and they probably have questions. If you want to touch on getting your Dun and Bradstreet number, kind of how that process is, Paydex score, and with personal credit, how you max out the lines, how that differs from business credit and maxing out your lines.
Okay, so Dun & Bradstreet, for the best way to get that is go to dunandbradstreet.com. Getting a Dun & Bradstreet number is free. I would just, if you're going to work with me, I always recommend my clients, if they go off and do it on their own, to just do everything they can to get the free Dun & Bradstreet number appointed to them. If they want me to handhold them through the process, I'll spend time with them and do that as well.
But they will try to get you to sign up for one of their services, right? Because they did that to me when I signed up for our Dun & Bradstreet thing.
Oh, yeah, Dun & Bradstreet is
a really hard sell.
Like, they will call you all the time and send you emails, sign up for our thing or what. I can't remember what it was. But you say don't do that.
Dun & Bradstreet's, I would say they're in the business of building business credit, right? So one of the main things to building business credit is to get one of their numbers. So I think naturally they're going to want to sell you some of their services. It's clearly up to the client to buy them or not to buy them. But when they work with me, it's not really something that they need to do, because myself and my company, we cover all that.
What was the other question?
The Paydex score.
Oh, the Paydex score. So consumer credit has what's known as a FICO score, right? And that FICO score can go from 0 to 850. And if you're at 620 and above, you're like good to fair credit. If you're 700 and above, up to 850, then you're like excellent credit, right? There's a gauge somewhere in there. I forget how exactly it works, but in essence, that's how it works. In the business world, a Paydex score is your company's business credit score. And that goes from 0 to 100. 100 being the best, 0 being the worst. If you are able to accomplish establishing an 80 for a Paydex score, then you probably have really good credit in your business. And that's how you do that.
And then lastly, so with personal lines of credit, there's like thresholds where your score goes down. If you're over 30%, balance the credit limit. If you're over 50%, if you're over 80%. Now that doesn't work. That's not how it works in the business world, right? Their credit lines.
That is correct. So your FICO score, your consumer credit score, is based on a number of different things. But when you look at your credit cards, the more you utilize your credit card limit, the more you use of it, the lower your score goes. So in the consumer world, you want to be about 30% of your credit limit. So let's say you have $1,000 credit limit, 30% of 1,000 is like $300, right? So you want to keep your credit limit in that $300 range month to month. If not, pay it off as much as possible. But in the business world, business credit is completely different. Business credit is not based upon or calculated utilizing a factor of how much of your credit limit did you use. It really boils down to how much or how often are you paying your bills on time. It has nothing to do with credit utilization.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, thanks for elaborating on that. 'Cause I know there's slight differences and people don't know that, and that's really good information.
Sure.
To get out there. But yeah, going back and Ricardo said, if you want to kind of say kind of how you got your start, where'd you get to where you are now? Like, how'd you grow up?
Let's go back to young Jeff.
Young Jeff. Wow. That's kind of going way back. I grew up in Michigan. My parents are immigrants from the Philippines. My father, God bless him, he's not with us anymore, but he was an engineer. My mother is critically ill at this time, but she was a dietitian. They were immigrants. They came to the United States, and we grew up in West Bloomfield, Michigan. I did all the things as a immigrant kid should do, or the son of immigrants should do. Go to school. You get good grades. I didn't get exactly great grades, being the Asian that I am or Filipino that I am, but I got my grades, and I proved to myself that I could get those grades. I went on to college. I got my degree from Western Michigan University, and I got my degree in accounting. I came here to Chicago about 6 months after I graduated, and in doing so, I really, I had a tough road. I came to Chicago. I worked with a few temporary agencies as a accountant. And then I found my way into a staff accountant position, senior accountant positions. Then I was a controller and chief financial officer. I've done a number of different things. And so, climbing the corporate ladder was great. It was a lot of fun. I was fortunate to have really, really good mentors. Most of them said I caught them at a wrong time because as I was coming in and they were getting accustomed to growing me, developing me, etc., it was time for them to retire. So, accounting was really it for me, and I really liked it. I loved it. Learned a lot from my mentors. And as a result of that, I decided to go be an entrepreneur. And so I went into the commercial mortgage business, and now I'm in the small business consulting business. Aside from building business credit, I get loans, and then I also do a little bit of consulting when it comes to bookkeeping and things like that.
So let me ask you, how did you make the decision from going to the corporate world to be an entrepreneur? Like what brought that up? And then, how was that transition? And, was it a smooth transition, or were there some hurdles? And how did you kind of get your start on your own through that transition?
Well, there are a lot of hurdles when it comes to that, right? When you're in corporate America and you're in charge, your budget, I've worked with anything that's like $5 million to $140 million bucks. And when you have something like that at your fingertips, you can practically do anything and everything you want to do, depending on budget, depending on personnel, and et cetera. You call the shots, and, someone else is picking up the tab. Right. And the problem that I had was, for as much as I might be doing a good job, or I might direct someone how to get things actually done, the reality boiled down to this. As hard as I worked, I could work 60 hours a week. I could work 80 hours a week. Really didn't matter because, one, I was on salary, so I didn't get a lot of money as a result. And my hourly wage, as you can imagine, if you're working 60 to 80 hours a week, your hourly wage on a salary is like down to nothing.
Right. Cut in half.
Exactly. Then the other side of it is the harder I worked, the better vacation my boss got to go on, or, the more they took credit for, as opposed to perhaps giving me credit for having done a number of different things. When you're that CFO, when you're that controller, and you're looking to cut costs or bring things under control, you're not everyone's best friend, right? I mean, you're the target. You're that guy that says, oh, you're cutting my budget again. Oh, you did this. Oh, you did that. And the reality is it's not a real easy job. But, the reality is it's necessary, as you guys know, being small business owners yourself, you do have to be aware of your costs. You do have to be aware of your expenses. You have to be aware of how you spend your time and what you do to get things done.
Especially when it's in your own money.
Oh, yeah, especially when it's your own money.
Yeah, not somebody else is picking up the tab.
No one cares more about your money than you do.
That's 100% correct.
Yeah, so just kind of, what type of mindset shift did you need to make to get over that hump of making the transition, and then how did you start, and then how did you grow and scale from there?
Wow, mindset. Mindset, I would say, is absolutely positively one of the most important things. I mean, you really have to understand that when it comes to your mindset, you have to understand if it's to be, it's up to me.
Right.
Okay? Because there's no one out there waiting to come with a fire truck full of money to help you get out of the situation that you're in. Okay? mindset is everything, because while you go into that self-employment mode, while you go and you talk to your family and friends, because that's where most people start, doesn't matter what kind of business, you know, your family and friends will be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know,
It's always weird to like, they just won't support you.
that's the most absurd thing, isn't it?
We always talk about it being like, what is it? Like, crabs in a bucket sort of thing.
The crabs in a pot.
Oh,
Yeah.
in
Want you
the
to call out,
Philippines,
they-
we call
they bring
that
back in.
the crabs in a bushel.
Yeah.
So the crabs in the bottom of the bushel all want to go to the top, and the crabs at the top of the bushel, the ones at the bottom, are always trying to bring them down.
Yeah, I feel like it's always like that. It's like,
Yeah.
why don't you just support me?
You
Right.
post like, oh, I got a new job, blah blah blah. You know, you get like 100 likes, say on Facebook posts, like, oh, I'm starting a new business today. It's like 5 people. So everyone's like, oh, that's actually more important than getting a new job, because it's like you're going out and doing something for yourself,
Right.
trying to follow your dreams, and yeah,
Well, that's always a challenge,
especially if
right?
you're leaving like a really nice, cushy, corporate job like you to,
Yeah,
oh, I'm gonna start
CFO.
my own. Everyone's like, what are you doing? You're gonna go from CFO of this huge company to going on your own, and
Yeah, I mean, there's a number
people
of things
think you're
like,
crazy.
oh, they do. I mean,
Was your family supportive? Your friends and family?
they were not entirely. Okay. There was a point in time where, like back in 2007, 2008, I had an opportunity. It was really big. I was in Detroit. I got a 5-year exclusive deal on it. I negotiated all the terms and everything on my own with the client. I actually found a lender that was actually ready and able to do the deal. It was like $750 million. Okay. And my take-home pay on that was significant. I told my father about the deal. I told my brothers about the deal, and they were like, yeah, right, whatever. So one day I had to go home over the weekend to do some negotiations and meet with the developer, who happened to be the father of a childhood classmate where I went to school in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, St. Hugo the Hills. And then when I told my dad that was this person, he kind of stopped and said, really? And I was like, yeah, it's him. And he was like, okay. And you have to realize that for us in our family, for them to understand and realize what it was that I was dealing with at the time, that developer, that gentleman, actually in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, he built our church. In a time when the Archdiocese of Detroit was closing churches, we went and built a $6 million church. And the gentleman that was part of this development actually was a guy that built the church, and his daughters were my classmates. His nieces were my classmates, not just to myself, but to my brothers and many other people. So when my dad heard that was this gentleman, I was like, okay, that's a little different. And then I showed him the contract that they signed, and, it showed a 5-year exclusive. It showed $750 million. I mean, it was like a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So then that Saturday morning when I went home, I went to a meeting with my dad that included the former mayor of that municipality, general counsel for that municipality, the developer, and the developer's partner. It was my dad and I. Mm-hmm. And we met at an absurd time in the morning. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning, because they wanted to get things in before the weekend started and stuff. They were excited about where things were going. And after the meeting, I said to my dad, so what do you think? How'd I do? And number one, he was surprised that guy was there. So they shook hands and everything. They reminisced a little bit back to St. Hugo. And then my dad said, I don't know what I could tell you to do better.
Nice.
It was like, I think about shitting my pants. I was like, what? I'm like, what are you talking about? You work for GM. My dad probably in his lifetime moved or managed for GM somewhere close to $1 billion, wow, if not more in his 20-year, 30-year career with General Motors.
Nice.
The difference, though, was here I am as this kid, one contract, one time, big dollar amount, and that payday that I was going to get was like better than a current day major league professional sport contract salary.
Yeah.
I mean, that was absurd.
And what happened?
Well, the market went to hell in a handbasket, and it just never came to fruition. But, you know, I mean, the lesson for me was once you get into that arena once, you can get into that arena again.
Definitely.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people out there think, you know, something happens, someone makes a bunch of money. It's like luck, right? It's like, no, you put yourself in position around the right things. And if one thing doesn't work, something else is going to work. And you keep getting opportunities. But if you're not out there searching for them, you're not putting yourself around the right people, those opportunities don't come.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's always the key, right? I mean, when it comes to your family support, when it comes to talking to people and doing things with people, I mean, look, we met how many years ago, right?
2 years.
2 years, 2.5, something like that. And we talked about it. You had a third guy with you, Eric. We sat in this exact room and, you know, whatever happened, right?
Yeah. I just don't think we were ready at the time for the kind of things that you were talking to us about. Like, we're just getting started. There was just a lot going on at the time. Now it's, you know, it's a slightly different situation.
It's totally different.
Perspective, yeah.
But what's most important is, regardless of the fact that we met 2.5 years ago or whenever it was, you guys still went about your business. Mm-hmm. You guys still went and did something worthwhile for yourselves. And when you become an entrepreneur, I have many conversations with many different successful entrepreneurs. Your mindset and your will to succeed, your will to do something better for yourself, which is different than most. Because let's face it, most people would prefer to be an employee as opposed to an entrepreneur. Yeah. I mean, and a lot of people that say I want to be an entrepreneur, I don't even know if they really mean it.
They want to be they're an entrepreneur.
Right. That's 100% true.
The grass is always greener.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, oh my God, I can do this. I can do that. Did it. And
I just heard the grass is green where you water it.
Well, there's all kinds of ways to cut it, right? In terms of cliches. Yeah. But at the end of the day, regardless of what's occurred, I'm here to tell you, I'm happy for you guys in that we're meeting again. But more importantly, you did something worthwhile for yourselves. I mean, look at you. You went from, as you just said, Ricardo, a time where you were beginning, perhaps a little overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah.
Etc. You went through whatever growth spurt you went through, whatever calamities, whatever successes, this, that, and the other thing. As a result, you guys are on how many flips now?
In almost to 20 now.
Almost to 20. Yeah. Okay. A lot of people would just give up. That'd be like, I took my shot, my one shot with whatever money I had. I went for it. I went against everybody's opinion, everyone's thought process, and I went for it, and I failed. You know, I didn't wake up yet this morning and say, hey, today I'm going to be the best consultant ever. I'm going to be able to deliver my message in a way that isn't offensive. I'm going to be able to deliver my message in a way that, oh, it's too good to be true. I'm going to be, you know, it takes a lot, right? Yeah. Where I'm at today, where you're at today, is a culmination or the complete result of how many different conversations you've had, how many different ventures you've tried. Have you ever picked up a property and found out that ultimately there was no way, there was nothing you could do to make that situation right? It's possible. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Did
we
you
ended
quit?
Up selling it right away.
Right. Did you quit?
No. Never quit.
You know, you took your lumps and you keep going. So, you know, it's not a matter of how many times you fall or how hard you fall. The fact of the matter is, are you willing to stand up? And how fast can you stand up and get back out there and meet the challenges?
Just gotta keep going.
Of what comes along, because eventually you're going to get it right. I mean,
somebody else also says, like, the harder I work, the luckier I get too.
Luck. Yeah. Let me tell you something. This is not about luck. Oh. Okay. It's not luck. It's not coincidence that Matt and I ran into each other, then you came along and we're here sitting in this same room and going through an interview process and et cetera. That's not luck. That's perseverance. That's, if it's to be, it's up to me. Right. You've got to know who you're running with, who you keep friends with, because you're the sum of what your friends are. If your friends are employees, the likelihood is you're going to be an employee. If you're an entrepreneur, you're going to know other entrepreneurs. Me and my business and the way I pursue my business, I like small business owners. I like restaurateurs. I like real estate guys. There's a lot of different things that I can do. And because I do it differently, when someone really sits down and really takes a few minutes to understand what it is that I do, their perspective completely changes.
Yeah.
Because not all attorneys are created equal. Not all accountants are created equal. Not all wealth specialists are created equal. Not all fix and flip guys are created equal. You really have to know your craft. You really have to know how to stand your ground and continue to evolve.
Yeah.
You know, your ability to evolve and meet the market requirements on a daily basis is what's important. Because eventually one day you're going to find your niche. And when you find your niche, you're going to be in a spot. So like, you know, with you guys today, I could tell you 620 FICO, 2 years experience proven, 25,000 liquid in the bank. Okay. I can probably go to one of my lenders today and get you a $1.5 million line of credit for a fix and flip. Every deal you look at or you want to do will be looked at individually, and it will get closed against the line of credit. Then the next question I get is, great, what's that cost? All I can tell you is this.
It's $1.5 million. Who cares?
Well, and that's exactly right. When it comes down to $1.5 million bucks.
Charge me $10,000, I'll still get a $1.5 million. Like, it doesn't matter.
Does the value exceed the cost? That's what you got to focus on. A lot of people just focus on the cost, and that's it.
Right. Well, you know, there's a lot of guys out there, right? There's a lot of guys out there that can offer any program. There's a lot of guys out there that can offer business credit. Do they do it the way I do it? Probably not. Can they provide the same expertise that I can? Probably not. And it really comes down to your ability to just sit down with people, analyze a transaction. You know, I often tell people I'm Shark Tank, but I'm that guy in Shark Tank that you don't see on TV because I can't write the check yet. Just because I can't write the check today doesn't mean I don't do the same analysis that those guys do on Shark Tank. It doesn't mean that I don't work with an underwriter or with a lender in the same capacity.
Right.
And now with business credit, I don't need your social security number. I don't need your tax returns. I don't need a corporate tax return. I just need to know, do you have a Dun & Bradstreet number? Do you have an EIN? Are you willing to work with me and go through the process? Because if you think about it, to get a guaranteed $50,000 in 12 months, if you knew that 2.5 years ago.
Where would we be now? We have that quarter million line you're talking
about those things, man.
What's that?
Like, you can't think about the opportunities you've missed, because we've missed. I can think of 10 things that I've missed that if I would have done it, I would have, you'd be in a completely different place. Like,
right.
You just got to keep moving forward. Yes, you fucked up, but
make
sure that you're ready for that next thing that comes.
But the thing is, it's not a matter of, effing up.
Yeah.
Seriously. I mean, it's really about, look, I made the best decision I could make at the time I made the decision with the information I had at my fingertips. And it boils down to this. You're damned if you do. You're damned if you don't. If you're indifferent, great. But you had to do something. You are prime examples of someone that said, okay, well, we could do this. We're not going to for now. You continued. You're successful. You're on your 20th flip. Back in the day, I think you were on one.
Yeah.
Your very, very first one. All three of you guys were living in one place. Yeah. You guys had this place like sectioned out. I think you said one section was for the office, another section was living quarters for you, three of you individually, and et cetera. Yeah. And you're in a completely different spot now. Yeah. But you can only do what you can do as you're comfortable doing it. Now, the other side of it is, really, until you get out of your comfort zone, you can't truly be successful. You have to accept risk. Somehow, some way, somewhere, you have to accept risk. It's kind of like asking a girl out. Oh, my God, I like that girl. That girl is so hot. Or she's someone I'm really attracted to. And all the thoughts stay in your head. And you never get up and you don't go across the room and say, hi, my name's Jeff.
The Moneyman.
Yeah. No, Moneyman. It's funny that you remember that, but yeah,
Do you own that URL? JeffTheMoneyman.com?
Sure, that'd be cool.
No, but I often tell people. I make a really, really bold statement. And it's obvious you guys remember.
You back it up.
9.5 out of 10 people you meet will never know more about money than me. And that's a pretty dang bold statement.
Yeah.
Because I know that I can speak to things that the bankers can do. Because whether they believe it or not, the reality is, through the different things that I do, those bankers that when you go to the corner and they tell you no, some other department in that bank is a department that I deal with and consequently will end up lending my clients money or will do something to the favor of my clients so that they end up with money where the guy in the corner said, not going to happen, impossible.
Right.
Yeah, it's hilarious. I never got that. Like banks in particular always, what that saying that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. They're always like separated and they're never like on the same page.
Well, look, when you're a bank, okay, there are so many different departments. And part of the reason why I myself, with all the knowledge and expertise that I have, did not get into a bank is simple. They wanted to say, Jeff, great, come work with us. But you're going to work in a department that only deals with companies that are $1 million and less. Then it's going to be 5 million. And then if they're less than $1 million, it's got to go to another department. So you're 5 million to 10. You want to go to 11 to 20 or whatever that increment is. Then you have to work in another department. You're going to work with XYZ people. You have got to learn how to work within these parameters.
Right.
And to me, that's impossible. Because now you're telling me I'm only good enough to learn and to know this aspect of banking. When the reality is, because now I have this breadth of experience, this breadth of knowledge, this ability to get things done, I can talk to a client about any one particular transaction, not be scared. I can go to a bank and talk to them about any one particular transaction and not be scared. Collect the required documentation, analyze them. I mean, there's a deal that's sitting on my desk right now. Super big, super big settlement that happened in the U.S. courts. Okay. Giant. The person that they won the judgment against suddenly filed bankruptcy. It's like, ooh, okay. So what do you do with that? And there's another big financial firm involved, and they allowed this individual to move money, supposedly. This, that, and the other thing. I don't know all the details of that part of the deal. But then they found out that this guy was tied and introduced to, was tied to another company that's in Hong Kong. Okay, and this company in Hong Kong now is, we're willing to buy out that judgment for 5%. Okay, so now it comes down to, great, you're looking to buy out that judgment for 5%. Okay, well, let's just use theoretical numbers. So let's say it's 5% equals 100 million. Well, how many firms can handle a $100 million settlement? Because they're going to buy the settlement. They're going to put an agreement together in writing, binding. That's for $100 million. They're based in Hong Kong. Then you got to find a U.S. lender that's willing to lend against a $100 million instrument on a company that's in another country. Mm-hmm. Okay. Unless you have you ever seen like the movie The Woman in Gold? No, you should watch it. Yeah. Okay, because that's what this kind of pertains to, in a way. Mm-hmm. How do you get this company in Hong Kong to make good on a $100 million note? On top of that, how do you get a lender to give you money against a $100 million agreement? Because in the event that they default on that agreement, now someone's got to go to Hong Kong to sue them and take them to court, this, that, and the other things, and make them come good.
Yeah.
Pretty complex, right? Yeah. There's nothing easy about this. But because of my persistence, because of my ability to understand and my desire to do certain things, not get cornered into a box at a bank that only deals with XYZ things, I have the freedom to move about and look at this transaction.
But it's also the thing where most people would say, I have no idea. But then you're like, I'll figure it out. Like, right. If I don't know what to do, I'll I'll figure it out.
Right.
It's a whole different type of mindset.
Well, it's a different mindset completely. And here's the mindset that you guys actually have fallen into without perhaps even realizing it. See, it's one thing to go into a transaction or have an opportunity before you, right?
Yeah.
But if you find something's wrong, like, I don't really know what to do with this house or this building anymore because of XYZ parameters.
Yeah.
Right? And you look at each other dumbfounded. Like, duh, what do we do?
Figure it out.
Okay.
We actually sit down and figure out, like, come up with different scenarios that we could do. Oh, this might work. Oh, this might work, or that might work.
Right.
I mean,
So
that's business.
Exactly. But when I was CFO, my staff would come to me and say, or other department head would come to me and say, "This is the problem." Like, okay.
Where's the solution?
And exactly.
Yeah.
Where's the solution? So you hit it on the head. You find the solution. My thing with my people was, great, you found the problem. But if you can't bring me the solution, guess what you are?
Yeah.
You're part of the problem. So don't bring me something and point it out to me unless you're willing to provide the solution.
Yeah.
Isn't it that saying, like, if you come to me with a problem, be prepared to bring me 3 solutions with it?
Exactly.
Now, to kind of elaborate a little bit on that,
Sure.
2 things. So, what would you say you learned in the corporate world, being a CFO, that translated onto being an entrepreneur or going in business for yourself? Because a lot of people think it's like, why should I even get a job, or why should I should just go straight to starting my own business? But in my opinion, there's a lot of skills that you could obviously learn that in the corporate world that would translate to entrepreneurship and business ownership. What would, I don't know, 3 things that you said that translated into starting on your own?
Well, number one, you have to be a leader. Okay. I don't care if you're a leader in your little department. I don't care if you're a controller, CFO. I don't care if it's you guys. I mean, what jobs did you guys have? I don't even remember what jobs you guys had.
I was actually an accountant.
I was a design engineer.
All right. And so both of you were in a position where you had to provide solutions,
Yeah.
right? And whether it was routine and writing a journal entry or routine for you and creating some sort of design that makes sense.
Yeah.
You
had to come up. We had to come up with it from scratch, essentially.
Right.
They'll give us, because at the last job that I worked was, we did all the engineering for, like the huge letters that go on top of like the buildings, like the company name.
Yeah.
So someone would, like the art department would give us like, oh, here's what it should look like. Now figure out how to attach it to the wall and it doesn't fall off, and it could withstand 125 mile per hour winds
And stuff.
it's like all
Right.
these different things. It's like we had to figure out essentially how to make it work, right? From scratch, like nothing else. So
Sure.
I feel like a lot of those things translated, but anyway,
Absolutely.
keep going.
So you got to be a leader. You got to be a solutions provider. And you can't have this idea, okay, that somewhere along the way you're going to quit. See, and quitting is a relevant term, right? So you can stay with a company as you guys did, continue to work, hone your skill set, and then you realize, wait, I was meant to be something more.
Yeah.
Right? And if you realize that you were meant to be something more, then the question becomes, great, that's half the battle. What are you willing to do about becoming something more? See, I had another company before that I worked with. They said, if Mr. Tandoc tries to contact you regarding his better opportunity, blah, 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 tell him this place is my home and I don't work with quitters.
Wait, they actually said that?
They actually published it
Oh, that's
What?
in social media, and they dispersed it among that entire organization.
Wow.
So I looked at that and I say, okay, well, first of all, one of the reasons why I got involved with that entity, or it matched one of my philosophies. And the philosophy was simple. Your mind is like a parachute. It works best when it's open.
right.
Okay. So if you realize that you're meant for more, the parachute's open, right? And you actually go and pursue that. Are you quitting? No, you're just moving on to something that's bigger and better for yourself.
You're promoting yourself to a better opportunity.
Exactly. So, and just because you think that's a better opportunity for yourself, it doesn't mean it's right for anyone else. But if they were clear of emotion, and that's a problem. So another thing is you have to take emotions out of things.
Right.
The decision-making process.
Got to be objective.
Yeah, right. Okay. You've just got to stand for yourself. You can't allow someone to dictate onto you what's right for you. You've got to know what's right for yourself. And
You got to be self-aware. I think
that's very important. Self-aware.
That
yes.
might be one of the most important things that you can have as a business owner or entrepreneur, being or as a person in general, because you're self-aware of what things you actually like and what things you actually want to do and where you want to go.
Right.
It changes completely everything.
Well, and that's where, when you said that in general, see, the things I try to apply and implement are universal, right? So, sometimes in talking to some people, they're like, oh, first you said this. Then you continue your conversation and they say, but wait, you said this. And so it really boils down to simply a couple of different things. Okay. Universally speaking, you can say one thing that's right 1 minute ago. 5 minutes later, you'll say something or you'll think something that might appear to contradict what you initially said. But the real question is it just being self-aware? And as a result, can you agree to disagree or be indifferent about what the process is? Because when you remove emotion, right, in that decision-making process, that's when things can be cleared. That's when you can be objective. So self-awareness is a big thing, okay? But sticking to your guns, knowing what you believe. It's like this. One time I was talking with a guy. And it's happened in many different instances, corporate America, being entrepreneur and whatnot. And it really boils down to this. My priorities are simple. Number 1, God. Number 2, my family, my closest of friends. And number 3, business. So I had this guy one time tell me, and another mentor before tell me, Jeff, you need to be at XYZ event. I said, okay, great. I'm not going to be there. I've already been absent away from my family for X period of time. My family needs me. I'm going to be with my family. I will not be at this event.
Yeah.
So then this guy goes on to say, well, you told me when we first started working together that I could remind you of things that are important and that you gave me permission to tell you things that you need to hear as opposed to things that you want to hear. I said, okay, that's great. I appreciate that. But did you understand what my priorities are?
Right.
And he says, yeah. I said, good. Then I think we understand each other. See, so his last comment was, and then I guess I'll see you at 7:00 tonight. So I was like, what? When did you become God?
Yeah.
Or when did you become my family and closest of friends? Your business.
Yeah.
And see, the other thing is when you become an entrepreneur, you can't be worried about other people's opinions.
Oh,
right?
Of course not.
Because unless they're paying your bills, unless they're investing in your business, guess what they have? An opinion.
Right.
And what's their opinion worth if they haven't paid your bills or invested in your business? Nothing.
So we're going to go into these questions now.
All right, go ahead.
Around that time. But actually, before we get into that, if you want to touch on for a couple minutes, actually how we kind of bumped into each other again and what you're doing now with that.
Oh, sure. So, a couple months ago, Matt and I ran into each other, very pleasantly surprised. I recognized him out of the corner of my eye. And
you know what's funny? He's like, guess who I ran into last night? And I was like, I was trying to figure out who it was. And then I didn't guess it because there's like, how? Like, what are the chances? And he's like, oh, Jeff.
Right. And when he said Jeff, did you know immediately? Or did you kind of...
Well, I said Tandoc. And he's like, yeah.
So in the oddest place, right, we met up here through the North Shore of Chicago. Mm-hmm. Okay. I ran into Matt a couple months ago down in the northwest corner of Indiana at a networking event.
Another state.
In another state.
That's random as
right?
hell.
How crazy is that? So he walks up to me and I'm talking with some of my people and, we're all conversing, we're networking and stuff. And Matt walks up to me and he says, I don't know if you remember me, but my name's Matt Messick. Like, I remember you. He was like, I met you in your, like, yeah, we did. And, you know, he goes, I saw you. And as a result, I said, if he's here, meaning myself, then what did you say? I got to be in the right place.
Yeah, I was like, if you're here, then I must be in the right place, because you wouldn't be where we were if it wasn't the right place to be, if that makes sense.
So consequently, that event was a company that I work with. It's called TurnOn. They actually pay for my car right now, which is kind of cool. I don't know if you ever had a company car before or anything like that, or actually got a stipend from a company that pays for a car. You know, it's pretty darn awesome. So what I do at this company is we offer a couple of different things. Things changed as of January 1st, 2018. We have what are known as financial services. And then we also work with healthcare products. But the financial services we have to offer, there are 7 basic services. And what we do with those services is they're focused on the 5 principles of financial mastery. The 5 principles of financial mastery are really simple. You already know, number 1, it's make money. Okay. The second one is save money. Not everyone is good at saving money. The third is protect money. The 4th is manage money. And the 5th is grow money. Okay. So all our services from that financial side are designed to do exactly that. So we have a software package that deals with finances. You throw all your information in there and it gives you a 90-day down to the second personal financial statement of where you're at financially. If you have debt, the software package will even teach you how to pay your debt off quickly so it's no longer over your head.
Right.
The other thing that we have is identity theft. Identity theft is huge in this marketplace today. I think I just showed Matt a post that I put out on Facebook. I can't tell you how many different people have responded and have shared that post. But identity theft is huge. And part of identity theft is, there's no real crime in taking someone's identity. There's no real penalty. And, typically you talk to 100 people a week in that same room of new people. I ask people, do you know of anyone, either yourself personally or someone that you care about, could be a family member or a friend, that's been a victim of identity theft? How many hands do you think of?
I mean, it happened to me in the last year.
Oh, it did?
Well, not complete identity theft, but like all of a sudden I had a bunch of charges from Florida on my cards.
What?
And I had just been to Florida maybe 6 months before that.
Oh, wow.
But all of a sudden it was like, oh, at the casino, oh, at the racetrack, oh, at KFC, or
just random
$500 in like a day. And I was like, wait, I'm not in Florida right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So, that's no real big crime. And part of that service is identity theft. And then we do computer protection, because most identity theft occurs through a computer of some sort. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the next thing we do is tracking of expenses. So we have a software package called TaxBot. What it does is it tracks all your mileage. It tracks your who, what, when, why, where for all your expenses, mileage being one. Second, could be your advertising expense. My advertising expense is a little different than most because of my entrepreneurship knowledge and my ability to understand a little bit of tax code. Not something that I have to know 100% on my own, but because of this company, we can lever tax laws that are applicable to us, because as small business owners, we have the same tax advantages that of a Fortune 100 company.
Right.
Okay. So we do that. We do credit restoration. That's one of the biggest things right now that's hot and big in the marketplace today. All 3, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, are under fire right now for reporting old information, inaccurate information, and a whole bunch of other things. Consequently, your credit score goes down. Well, if you have a crappy credit score, what happens?
Can't do anything.
You can, but it's going to come at a cost.
Right.
It's going to come and cost at a big cost.
Things get a lot tougher.
High interest rates.
Like
right.
25% for a $6,000 car type of thing.
Yes, correct. I know someone that happened to.
Yeah.
And I tried to advise them, hey, look, before you go buy that, 10-year-old car, in this case it was $10,000, with a 25% interest rate, slow down. You don't need to have that car right now, today, do you? So again, that's part of that taking emotion out of things, right?
Yeah.
If you take the time to think about what you're doing and carry forward, then you can probably do something more effective, more intellectual, and et cetera. But it's really, you got to have the right people around you to guide you. Because this person's uncle said, yeah, no problem, just go do it. Would you ever advise anyone to buy a car that's 10 years old with 150,000 miles on it for $10,000, no money down with a 25% interest rate? Would you ever advise anyone to do that?
No.
It's craziness. Horrible. So the other side of things that happens with a poor credit score, it's a high interest rate on the car. That means you have a high interest rate on your car insurance, high interest for your homeowner's insurance, high interest on your everything. So the average American then wastes $500,000 to maybe $750,000 on fees that they didn't have to because they didn't take the time to fix their credit.
Hey, real quick. Hey, DeAndre, do you mind closing the door? Getting some background noise.
Oh, it's all good.
Thanks.
So, the next thing, we'll wrap this up in a second. The next thing we do is legal assistance. How many of us have an attorney typically?
We do now, but starting off, you don't.
Right.
And not a go-to one for everything.
So do you think rich people think differently?
Of course.
See, when I was growing up being immigrants, my parents always said, you need a doctor in the family, which we have plenty of those. Then you need an accountant. I'm the accountant. Then you need an attorney. One of my cousins is an attorney. Okay. And once you have all that in place, then your family is set. I mean, rich people receive all the same information we do, right?
Right.
But how many of us apply the information that the rich people get?
Virtually none.
Well,
Virtually.
Most people have the preconception that they're not willing to share what they know. But in my experience, most people who are or have been successful at some point are more than willing to share what they know.
It depends on who you're talking to, right? And you also have to be aware, as we talked about before, as to who you're getting that information from.
Yeah,
See,
true.
me, I don't mind sharing information, okay? But I always tell my people, listen, the information I'm giving you is solid, it's right, it's good, but check this out. You should have an attorney. Run it by your attorney. If you work with my company, we have a legal services, right? Run it by our attorney. The attorney is going to tell you I'm right. And if they have a difference of opinion, then they'll tell me, or they'll give you other options. But more often than not, I'm right on point. Yeah. Okay. So the other thing that we do are taxes. When you join our company, you'll do a personal tax return and a business tax return free of charge for as long as you've been with us for 6 months or more. 85% of Americans overpay on taxes. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah.
Crazy.
If you get that tax refund, everyone's so happy about it. It's like you just gave an interest-free loan to the government for a year.
That's 100% correct. Well, it's true. Well,
nobody realizes that.
Is President Trump going to give you back your tax refund with interest on it?
Oh, no.
Or did you just pay too much into the system and you're like, woohoo,
Everyone thinks
I got all this free money back. That was your money to begin with.
Exactly.
Right.
It's not like it was free money. It was your money to begin with. So why are you torturing yourself over getting a big tax return? You should want your tax return to be as close to zero as possible.
Yeah.
So
to wrap that up before we go into the questions.
Cool.
You get those 7 services.
And we have healthcare products, and ultimately we take care of health and wealth. Okay. Then I take that and I combine that with building business credit. Now I have a great one-stop shop for my entrepreneur or someone who wants to be in business. Not a entrepreneur, as you said before, Matt, but someone that actually wants to make that leap of faith forward. Even if they're a seasoned business owner, my 7 services apply. The business credit applies. But even better on top of that, because of where we're at and what we do, I can put you in touch with a wealth specialist that will help you build a retirement account from within your own company as well as for yourself as an individual. You should double dip. And it's better than most 401ks or 403bs or this, that, and the other thing. You just really have to do your homework, know what you're going through, and et cetera. And you have to make that decision for yourself.
And if you're interested in those 7 services and with the wealth specialist, we'll put in the show notes. Just reach out to us.
Yep.
It's a low monthly cost for all of that. And it's the value far exceeds the cost and the network you get with that too. People like Jeff and everyone in that group is, very successful.
Absolutely.
We'll put that in the show notes. Reach out to us if you want to be a part of that, or if you want more information, want to check it out. So now we're going to go into the questions.
Cool.
It's kind of the speed round. So each question, like 30 seconds or less, just give us, what comes off the top of your head and whatever the question is.
Okay. What habits help you make you successful?
What habits?
Yeah.
Mindset, number one. Always looking to evolve and refine yourself to put yourself in a better position, have better knowledge. Decision-making skills, knowing what works and what doesn't. And if you realize something's not working, then don't do it again, refine it, and work it until you find something that does work.
Okay. What is one thing that you find to be true that most people would disagree with?
Wow. There's a lot to that one. I would say that your goal, that most people disagree with.
Yeah.
Ooh. Well, really, for me, entrepreneurship is the way to go. You got to have that freedom. And ultimately, my goal for freedom is to be free to do what I want, where I want, when I want, with whomever I want, no matter where it is in the world, no matter what the cost.
Okay. What is a piece of advice you received recently that you still follow?
There's a number of different things. It is, who's your ride and die? Who are the people that you would ride and die with? Because the people who you want to ride and die with are the people you want to be in business with. That's who you want to surround yourself with. You guys had a third guy before, he's no longer with. You're still together, working together in whatever capacity. You're your ride and die. Me, I tell people, if you come into my family, you're part of my ride and die. I'll do everything in my power to help you no matter what it is, no matter where in the world I might be.
Yeah, I feel like I could call Matt at any time during the day and he'll come. 5 a.m., 4 a.m., 3 a.m.
Yep.
No matter what.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's happened before. I've gone and woke him up.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey, my wife says, one of the great traits I have is helping people, but sometimes, I've got to learn to where to draw that line, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So,
do you have a favorite failure? Is there one that set you up for a future success?
Oh, totally. When I signed that deal for $750 million, it didn't close, and the market went to hell in a handbasket. Believe me, when you think you're making 10% of $750 million, what's that number?
It's a lot of money.
It's a crap ton of money.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought I had that locked, sealed, delivered, ready to go.
About to retire.
I was done, and I was
Your mind was in the keys already.
No, my mind was, how can I get to my brothers so that I can help them have them come be a part of the company, help them get out of corporate America and not be a part of that rat race. My dream at that point in time was really how to take care of my parents, how to take care of my wife and kid. When things like that happen, or you think you have that shot, and you're going to make that kind of money.
Yeah.
There's some finality in that, and the finality is it comes down to this. There's a difference between working because you absolutely need to versus simply working because you want to.
Right.
It's powerful.
Right. One of my favorite mentors once said, his name was Byron Nelson. Byron, I hope you hear this. Air is like money. When you have more air, it's just easier to breathe. Money does the same thing. Money also simply magnifies what you already are. If you have a lot of money and you're a jerk, guess what money's going to do? Just going to magnify what a jerk you really are. Wow. If you have money and you're humble and you're kind and you're willing to help people, money will only magnify your ability and your desire to truly help people.
Yeah.
That's all I ever want to do is help people and have them be in a better spot.
I think that's huge.
Yep.
What was your first business idea and what did you do with it?
So, funny story. I think I have my folder somewhere, but back in 8th grade, I had a project business at St. Hugo the Hills. I still hope they do that out there. Mr. John Sennett Steele, I don't think he's with us anymore, was the owner of that company. He came in and taught us project business. But in 8th grade, Mrs. Obrecht suddenly the school secretary suddenly couldn't work anymore. She had a oxygen tank that she had to bring with her, this, that, and the other thing. She talked about retiring. And upon retiring, she said, well, I probably can't drive, this, that, and the other thing. And I said to myself, whoa, that's got to be difficult. So I literally, way back in the day, I've got a folder somewhere with my handwritten notes on, the ruled notebook paper that you got when you were as a kid.
Yeah.
It's in a folder somewhere, but I wrote what is the similar premise to a company that exists today, Peabody. The home grocery shopping.
Oh,
Peapod.
I'm like,
Yeah.
Peabody is a restaurant in Birmingham, Michigan.
Peapod, yeah.
Peapod. So I started to look at, okay, how can I help Mrs. Obrecht get groceries, or people like her get groceries? What are we going to charge? This, that, and the other thing. And I took my shot in 8th grade at writing the business plan for Peapod. I didn't do anything with it, but Peapod exists today.
I just saw this meme recently, and what was cool about it was it shows the difference between business owners, or like entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And it was an entrepreneur. It shows, idea, 30 days later, business, like implementation.
Yes.
An entrepreneur shows idea, 30 days later, idea. Like
it's still an idea.
Yeah.
Right.
Like once you get into entrepreneurship and business ownership, and once you're kind of starting successful, you can do so many different things. You can implement things right away.
Sure.
Like I just kind of learned a lot about mobile home parks like 4 days ago.
Whoa.
And then yesterday I went out and looked at 5 mobile home parks and found 10 that were for sale. I'm starting to make offers next week. It was like, days implementation. Other people were like, oh, I know that knowledge. One day I'd like to do that, but then they never put it in place.
Sure.
So it's kind of like example, but that, with yours back then, anybody that implemented the idea would have been, a millionaire by now.
Right.
With Peapod.
So, they always, one guy told me, way back in the day when I first got out of college, his name was Leonard Sesniak. I don't know where he is today, but he said, when it comes to business ideas, it's broken down like this. You have an idea, and right now today, someone has the same idea, and they're already doing it.
Right.
Or right now today, someone has the same idea, and they're thinking about doing something about it.
Just got to do it.
And then right now today, someone has the same business idea, and kind of like to what Matt just said, it's just going to be an idea. So if you have something, you better act on it.
And you got to be willing to fail. And
you absolutely have to be willing to
completely move. Be okay with moving on if it sucks.
Absolutely right.
Because there's so many things that I've tried to do or I've done that they failed immediately, but there's nothing. It fails now until the next thing.
You know what's supposed to be a big failure?
What?
FedEx. FedEx was somebody's term paper or something. I think I read back in the day. I forget exactly how it goes, but he got an F for writing a term paper
FedEx.
on FedEx.
Really?
And FedEx is one of the biggest freaking companies today.
I'm not a huge fan though. if we're being honest.
Bill Gates supposedly on the southwest side of Michigan was going to sell DOS.
They always leave my shit
for
outside.
$600.
They always leave my stuff outside on the curb.
They'll knock a caller. Like,
They don't give a fuck. I live above a Mexican restaurant, and they left it at the Mexican restaurant. I didn't know for a week that my package was. And it said delivered, but I'm like, where?
Right.
I happened to go to the Mexican restaurant, and I saw the package on one of the counters. I'm like, that thing, that's mine.
Maybe that's what you get for living on top of the restaurant.
Hey, it's very, very convenient. There's also a liquor store right across too. Have you ever turned down a client?
Yes.
Why?
Well, I learned very early that some clients can be nothing but a big headache, right? And when you're in business, you want your relationships and your transactions to be win-win-win opportunities, right? So part of winning is being able to get along. Part of winning is offering a service and then paying for a service where everyone benefits. But if all that person is going to do is be in your ear and cause you a headache and never be happy or this, that, or the other thing, and this applies to life in general, okay? There comes a point in time where you got to say enough is enough and you cut dead weight.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have clients, but if that client is causing you grief and is causing you to do things that, whatever, and it's not always positive,
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it.
Was it like 80% of the problems come from 20% of the people?
That's part of it. The other part of it is in the workforce, 80% of the people do 100%, about 100% of the work.
No, 20% of the people do.
Yeah, 20% do 80% of the work.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And the other 80% are there just to fill spots. And
go on Facebook.
Go on
Amazon.
Facebook. Yeah. Things like that.
All right, next one. Why do you do what you do, and what gets you through the tough times?
Why do I do what I do? I do what I do because it's fun. I like working with people. I want people to realize their dreams. My company is Change Life by Hero. Hero is not what it sounds like. Hero stands for Help Everyone Rise and Overcome. Help because I've had to rise and overcome a lot. Help everyone realize opportunity. It's not enough to see an opportunity. You have to realize it, do it, and actually reap the benefits of that. And then Hero also stands for Help Everyone Retire one by one.
Nice. I like that.
To what do you attribute your success? This is the last one.
Well, success, I think, overall comes from the examples that were set before me. My grandfather in the Philippines was an entrepreneur. He actually knew my current wife's family, Emily Medali. It's the idea of there's no such thing as quit. Okay. I might be in different businesses today. I might be doing different things today, but I never quit. And most importantly, it's not just quit. You can't quit on yourself. If you quit on yourself and you're not willing to stand up and get to where you need to be and ultimately be successful, if you quit on yourself, you have nothing else to live for.
Okay.
And
It's kind of like love, right? If you don't love yourself, how do you love someone else? If you don't like yourself, how can you like someone else? If you can't get up and do what you got to do to get what needs to be done, how do you advise someone else to get up and do what needs to be done? You can't.
You can, but doesn't mean that you do it.
Well, but again, it comes down to quit. You know, I told my dad a long time ago, my dad got really mad at me for all the different things I've tried. And I said, Dad, I know you're mad. I know Mom's mad. I know my brothers are mad. I know X number of people are mad. But you know what? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter who's mad, because what matters is that I didn't quit on myself. I didn't give up on my thought process to be successful as an entrepreneur. Because I'm going to do it. I know my knowledge is right. I just maybe didn't have enough working capital. Maybe I didn't have enough of the right people working with me, because sometimes you can't be a one-man show all day, every day.
No.
So I look at you guys and like, you had 3, now you're down to 2. You split things 50-50. That's awesome. But when you got to do everything yourself, that grind is a grind.
It's hard. It's very lonely too.
Well, and that's the other thing. You can't be worried about what your friends are doing. Most of your friends have jobs, right? I'm going to tell you right now, I don't keep many friends. I only have a few people I keep in my inner circle and close to me, because I can't afford to have someone bring me down.
True.
When I got reacquainted with Jeff, he was in a room with probably about 10 people. He was saying like a lot of the stuff he was saying today, and everyone in the room was amazed at what he was saying. And we're just like, well, then he goes, you got it's who you surround yourself with. So he goes, if you introduce me to your 9 best friends, I'll tell you how much your income is based on who I meet. And then everyone's thinking about it. And I walk up to Jeff and I put my arm around him. I go, Jeff's my friend.
And you always will be.
Awesome. Yeah. That's a good note to end. Awesome. Thank you for being on the podcast, man. Hey. Really appreciate you giving us your time.
Thank you, guys.
If people want to reach out to you, where can they reach you? What's the best way? Or
you can reach me through email, info@changelifebyhero.com. You can reach me through my cell phone at 312-798-9462. We'll go from there.
And your 8 Facebooks.
My 8 Facebook.
Which one of those phones?
Well,
you got 3 phones, right? Which one does that connect to?
It's funny. I was telling here's the reason why I have 3 cell phones, right? Go to an office today. And anyone that's doing anything on the computer, how many screens do they normally have on their computer today? Back when I was in the workforce, I had 1. And I was a big guy that got that big 20-inch screen, right? But if you go today, like Ricardo just said, people have 2 or 3.
Yeah, I had 2 27-inch. It was awesome.
Right. But guess what? You're stuck behind that desk.
Yeah, that is true.
Right? So I might have 2 cell phones, and now I have 3 cell phones. So what? Here's my deal. My deal is simply this. I can go anywhere in the country. I can be in a car, train, plane, a bus. I don't care where I am. I don't care what I'm doing. I have my 3 computers in front of me at all times, and I can be, anywhere. I can work from anywhere. Where do you have to be to use that computer that has 2 or 3 screens?
Home. Or at
You got
work.
the mobile office, man.
You got at work. Right.
Awesome.
I have the mobile office. That's 100%
All right.
right.
Thank you, Jeff.
Cool.
Till
Yeah,
next time,
we
guys.
Appreciate it, man.
Hey, anytime. Thanks.